Good evening, Milwaukee. Thank you so much for tuning in to the City Rock Showgram. My name is Matt. Always a pleasure to be with you. And tonight we have with us Nathan Gray, who is currently on tour with Frank Turner. They are coming
Yes.
to Wisconsin, October 20th to Madison at the Majestic Theater. Nathan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, you've had a busy fall. Of course, Boysetsfire played a handful of shows.
Mhm.
You're on tour right now with Frank Turner, and then next month you have a new record coming out. How do you
Yep.
find time for anything else?
I don't. I I find that it, you just make the time and you prioritize. You know what I mean? It's not easy, but you tend to spend the time on the things that mean the most to you, and you don't waste a lot of time on things that don't. So it actually helps being this busy.
With kind of having shows planned for two separate projects, how did you find time to rehearse, and what did that look like?
Well, it's funny because like the people that I work with doing music they know the songs, they're knowledgeable, they're very talented. So rehearsal is sort of icing on the cake. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So we get together just a little bit in order to make sure we're on the same page with everything. But for the most part, it's very simple to just get in one or two rehearsals and be set.
Now, of course, touring in 2021 in the shadow of a pandemic,
Yeah.
what has changed as far as going on the road and playing shows?
One of the things that's changed a lot is I always, after we play, I usually get off the stage, hang out with people, talk, hug, take pictures, stuff like that. And in this situation, it's really not possible. We have to be as safe as we can be for the tour because there's so many people involved. So on this tour, every couple of days we get tested. We all wear masks backstage. The only time we take our masks off is when we're playing. Um, and the only time that I'm really out in the open is I sell my own merch. So I'll sit out there and do that, but I'm wearing a mask the whole time, which it makes it difficult to carry conversations. But then at the same time, maybe I save my voice a little bit, not talking my head off after shows.
Now, I had the privilege of checking you guys out at Furnace Fest, and
Mhm.
of course, that was a big crowd to play for. I mean,
Yeah.
when playing shows like that with the pandemic as a front man, like, are there things in the back of your head like, all right, how close to the crowd should I get? I mean, how do you approach
Yeah,
that?
well, fortunately, with like these bigger shows, especially like how that was set up and how these Frank Turner shows are set up, uh, they're very big venues with a barricade and all that kind of stuff. So you don't, I mean, you can get a little close, but you don't get that close, you know?
Mhm.
Um, and I mean, end of the day, there are certain risks you're just going to have to take. In a crowd where you have, everyone's, or at least they're supposed to be vaccinated and being checked at the door and all that kind of stuff. There are always risks. So there are some you just have to take, and others you have to be very cautious about.
Now, the new record you have out or coming out is called Rebel Songs, and you recorded that
Hmm.
with Brian McTiernan,
Yes.
which I think for a lot of musicians that he's a bucket list producer to work
Oh,
with.
without a doubt. Yeah.
I mean, and have you worked with him in the past, or is this your first time working with him?
It is actually funny because we had never met before this point. I have been good friends with his brother for like 20 years and never met him.
Oh wow.
It was so weird. Like when we got together to do this album, we were both like, how have we not met yet? Like all the bands we've been in that have crossed paths, being friends with like good friends with his brother, all this stuff, have no idea why we haven't crossed paths yet. It was weird.
So what the process for when you do solo records, do you pretty much handle all the instrumentation, or do you have a, a group of performers that play with you in the studio?
Oh yeah, no, I definitely have a group of musicians that play both in the studio, and I have handpicked musicians that I take out on the road with me as my backing band, which I've now titled the Iron Roses.
Okay.
Um, so the process is, even in writing, what I'll do is I'll write a good 75 to 90% of the song. And then I'll bring it to my friends and have them sort of work through the songs with me and really formulate them, you know?
Mhm.
And then we go from there. But I've found that it's been necessary to have a good crew of friends to help out, because I did it, but I'm not really interested in doing it anymore. Is just me and an acoustic guitar on a stage. It's just not me.
Mhm.
Um, I like loud, fast, and fun. You know,
Yeah.
so so you know, even on this tour where we're doing these Frank Turner shows somewhat acoustically, I have an acoustic guitarist who also sings backups, and a guy who's playing electric that's playing with like pedals and stuff to do the leads,
Okay.
and we still try to keep it as high energy as possible.
Nice. Now,
Mm.
speaking of Frank Turner, you did a song with him back in 2020 called "Say
Hmm.
Anything." How did
Yep.
that song come about? How did you guys put that together? Was that done during the pandemic, or did that come together
Yeah. Oh
before?
yeah.
Oh,
No, it was definitely right at the beginning of the pandemic. We were I had written this song and I had demoed it, and then I sent it to Frank and I was like, "Hey, you want to help me take this the rest of the way home?" You know,
mhm.
and and he's always been wonderful. Frank is one of those people in the music industry that is exactly who you think he is, and that is a blessing in this day and age. There are not many musicians like him who are so welcoming and kind and exactly what his music makes you think he is. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, so it was great to get in touch. And I mean, I first met Frank in the '90s when his band opened up for Boysetsfire in the UK. So we've known each other for a long time and just kept in touch here and there. And it was just great to send it to him and be like, yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. Let's do it. And we did it.
Nice. And can we expect you guys probably will perform that song together on tour?
I wish that were the case. We were actually thinking about Memphis because it was the 1 year anniversary of the song.
Uh,
But the only problem is we have no way of really rehearsing.
okay.
You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
because and thankfully, like his team is being extremely cautious. Like with backstage, like there's no, there's only a select amount of us back there. Everyone's wearing masks. Everyone's tested. There's no like guest list of people coming in and out back there.
Mhm.
Um, and there's really just no time to sit down and go through the songs. So it would be fun, but I just don't think we are going to be able to do it. And not only that, but I was added on very last minute to this tour. So
Okay.
even before it, there was no way of planning for that.
Sure. Oh, that makes sense.
Mm. Yeah.
Now, the new record, of course, is out on. It'll be out on End Hits Records, which is
Hmm.
based in Germany. Uh,
Yes.
what's it like working with a label outside of the states? Is that a better experience, or how is that kind of?
It's great. I mean, we also have very close distribution with Death Wish Records out of Boston.
Yeah.
So it works really well. It's a label that was started by my dear friend Oisey, who has been touring with me for a good 30 years now. So it's it's a family business, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So um, it's 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 unlike any label I've ever been on, and it is a wonderful place to be. And the fact that he is understanding of the fact that I don't live in Germany, so and I want to create a wave here. You know what I mean? I want to be all over the world. So he has done his best to get the distribution through Death Wish, get situations set up here in the US also so I can tour and be successful.
Right on, right on. So One thing I've been curious, just looking at your catalog of music, and just
Mhm,
a record that I found myself listening to a lot over the last 18 months is the Misery Index record.
mhm.
And those songs almost like became new songs to me in the shadow of the pandemic, especially like songs like
Yeah.
Misery Index, like Requiem, like Deja Vu. I mean, like, do you, how do you look at that record now, living in this in 2021?
Oh, it's still like hands down one of my favorite Boysetsfire albums we've ever written. Between that one and the last self-titled one we did, those two are my favorite. And I actually, when writing Rebel songs, I looked to Misery Index for a lot of inspiration. Um, not just in the social and political commentary, but in the way that we just went, screw it, we're going to do whatever we want. You know what I mean? If a song comes out sounding like this, that's what we're doing. You know, we're not going to set to a certain template where it has to be hardcore, it has to be this, that, or the other thing. We're just going to write music. And that has carried forward for me. Now, Rebel Songs, of course, is a much more positive album than Misery Index was, but it's still keeping in that same vibe of acknowledging, you know, what is going on in the present moment, um, and not only that, but also experimenting outside of my own box and bubble.
Looking at that record is, again, just because I've been revisiting it so much lately.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that record, like something like that almost wouldn't happen nowadays, right? Because you don't have
Yeah,
these major labels that are more or less ridiculous, right? I mean, I think
yeah.
I read in the liner notes that for the 10th anniversary edition of the record that they wanted Billy Corgan to co-write songs with you guys. I mean, how
Uh,
that's just
they
so.
wanted all kinds of, and that is why we parted ways, and we
Yeah.
ended up releasing that on Equal Vision,
Mhm.
because that was after Tomorrow Come Today, and we were struggling to, write the hit they wanted
Mhm.
on Misery Index, and it wasn't happening, and it wasn't going to happen. When I went to the label and went, both the song Misery Index and Empire you could use. I don't see why you can't.
Right.
And they were like, I don't see it. We're like, okay, we're at an impasse here, you
Mhm.
know? And that was when we parted ways with that label, because they wanted us to do all kinds of goofy stuff that we just were not okay with.
Right.
Um, and so, and to their credit, and I want to say this because I think it's important, to their credit, they said, you know what, you're right. You're not good for us. We're not good for you. We should just amicably part ways.
Mhm.
They didn't shelf us. They didn't screw us. They didn't do anything, but say, good luck. And we parted ways. And that was honestly, for in a world where these labels can just destroy a band,
Right.
I cannot say anything bad about Wind Up because of that. They were very kind in letting us just go on our way.
That's that's nice to hear because, like you said, I mean, so many bands just dissolve because of situations like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, without a doubt.
So, looking to the future for Boy Sets Fire, do you guys have anything planned coming up?
No, I mean, we're going to do a tour in Europe in next year, October of next year. But I am really focusing on what I'm doing.
Cool.
Boy Sets Fire is a thing that we do when we feel like doing it, and with where I'm set right now with this trajectory, you know what I mean. I'm trying to push this material, Rebel songs coming out,
Mhm.
Working Title, which I didn't even get to push. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Working Title came out. I went on tour and had to come home because of the pandemic. So my big push, and everyone around me knows this, is that I have to focus here. So
Mhm.
I'm not making plans for Boys It's Fire. I'm making plans for this and that, and that's not to say that. And I want to be clear. That's not to say that there's any bad blood or there's any issues there. I love Boys It's Fire. I love my friends. I love all of that. But I am 49 years old, and I am not going to be on my deathbed going, I wonder if I could have made it on my own,
Mm,
you know?
yeah.
So I am going to give it several years to really push on this. And the problem is to have both things out on the road constantly isn't going to work. I have to
Sure.
focus.
Yeah, I was gonna ask because like you said, you had a record come out in 2020, and then you have the new
Hmm.
record coming out this year. I mean,
Yeah.
that's pretty prolific. Is it for you? Does songwriting come easy? Is it to put records together, or does it?
It it does. I actually it's a blessing and a curse because it can be really debilitating at times. Just constantly like, I need my guitar real quick. I got to write this down. I got to record it real quick so I don't forget it for later. So I'm constantly like writing little pieces of songs. I've got like a phone full of like 50 songs for the next album.
Mhm.
Um, and it's great because once I get to that and I'm able to work on them, they're already ready. But when I'm busy and trying to tour and trying to do things, it can be a little debilitating.
Oh, sure, understandable. Well, I mean, now with how things have changed in the music industry, and especially after the pandemic, I mean, what does an album cycle even look like for a record? Is it? I mean,
That's a
this.
great question because I don't know. You know what I mean? That's an awesome question because it's very different now. Um, and I think that everyone in the music industry is trying to uh, figure it out again, and what it's going to look like moving forward. Because I think everything is going to change, but I don't think anyone knows how it's going to change and how we're going to keep up. So I think it's a hold fast and see what happens situation.
Yeah, understandable. Um, Looking at this record, I mean, what I know it's hard to kind of pick, but what are
Mhm.
some of your favorites on the record, and what songs are you most proud of that are coming off of this record?
Oh man, it is hard to pick because especially on a new album, you're like, they're all my babies, But
Yeah.
but I think that some of my favorites are the ones where I just really went out on a limb, you know.
Mhm.
um, Songs like Radio Silence that are hip hop and reggae influenced. There are songs on here like Rebel Songs or Million that are very people are going to expect them. You know what I mean? It's like that's very melodic, straightforward punk type of stuff that Nathan does. But I think songs like Radio Silence or Grace or even Look Alive are going to be like, what in the world like just happened? And I really look forward to people hearing that side of this album, um, because as a whole, when you listen through this album, it's a real journey to me, and to bring people into these new styles and influences that I'm going to be bringing into my music from here out, I think is it's exciting. It's very exciting for me.
Excellent. Well, Nathan, we're looking forward to seeing you in Madison next Wednesday, October 20th, and then
So stoked to play. Yeah,
and
awesome.
and then you're going to be stopping by the WMSE studios to do a set with us as well on a travel day. So thank you again for that. Looking forward to
Yeah,
having you.
absolutely. Yeah, I can't wait to be there. It's going to be great. Thank you so much.